Hello everyone, and welcome to my BNB For You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It was another bleak afternoon in the Los Angeles Women's Correctional Facility, the kind of day when the air itself felt heavy with silence and despair. Luna Nozawa sat on the edge of her narrow cot, her eyes unfocused, staring at the peeling paint on the cold concrete wall. The metallic clang of distant cell doors echoed down the corridor, followed by the shuffle of guards making their rounds. She had lost all sense of time, days bled into nights, weeks into months, each one a painful reminder of everything she had destroyed. Her once vibrant spirit was now buried beneath layers of shame, regret, and endless replaying of the moment that had sealed her fate. When she closed her eyes, she still saw the faces of the people she loved, Finn, Bill, and especially Steffy, twisted in disappointment, disbelief, and anger. The name Forrester used to fill her with admiration and aspiration. Now, it filled her with grief. She didn't expect any visitors that day. In truth, she hadn't expected any for a long time. Her mother, Poppy, hadn't come since the last court hearing. Finn had visited once, weeks ago, his eyes full of compassion but also something else, a barrier, a quiet distance that Luna couldn't penetrate. Even Bill Spencer, who once promised to move mountains for her and the baby, had retreated after the miscarriage, broken by his own guilt. Luna's world had shrunk to this cell, these walls, and the sound of her own tears at night. She had thought that nothing could hurt her anymore. That was until the guard appeared at her door and said the name she least expected to hear. Forrester. Steffy Forrester, the guard said with a raised brow, as if surprised by the visitor herself. She's here to see you. Luna froze. Her heart lurched in her chest. Of all the people she thought she might never face again, Steffy was at the top of that list. 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. Why would Steffy come here? To mock her? To condemn her? To deliver another crushing verdict on her worthlessness? Or worse, to tell her that Finn had finally moved on, that her name had been wiped from their lives forever? The guard led her down a long hallway, the kind that seemed to stretch forever, every echo of their footsteps amplifying Luna's anxiety. Her hands trembled as she was escorted into the small visitation room, separated by a thick glass panel. On the other side sat Steffy Forrester, poised as ever, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes sharp but unreadable. Even in the sterile gray of the room, Steffy exuded control and elegance, but there was something colder in her now, something that made Luna's chest ache. Steffy didn't waste time with small talk. Her hands were folded on the table, her gaze unwavering. "Sit down, Luna," she said firmly. Her voice wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. It carried a weight that made Luna obey instantly, as though she were still part of the Forrester household, still under Steffy's authority. For a long, unbearable moment, silence filled the room. Luna could hear the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above them, the buzz of the intercom, her own shallow breathing. Then Steffy spoke, slowly, clearly, each word sharp enough to cut. "I came here because you deserve to hear this from me," Steffy began. "Not from Finn, not from anyone else, from me." Luna swallowed hard. Her voice barely worked when she tried to speak. "Steffy, please. I didn't mean for—" "Don't," Steffy interrupted, her tone like steel. "Don't tell me you didn't mean for any of this to happen. Because intentions don't undo consequences." Luna's lips trembled. I just want to make things right." "You can't," Steffy said flatly. "Some things you can't fix, Luna." That was the moment the tension shifted, the air seemed to thicken, pressing down on both of them. Steffy leaned slightly forward, her voice quieter now, but heavier with emotion. Her next words would shatter Luna more deeply than any prison sentence ever could. "Finn doesn't see you the same anymore." Luna's breath caught. It was as if all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. Her hands went cold, her heart twisted painfully. What do you mean?" she whispered. Steffi's gaze softened for just a second, enough to reveal that she wasn't here out of hatred, but something else, honesty, maybe even mercy. But then her face hardened again. He's done, Luna. He's finally accepted what I've been trying to tell him. You brought chaos into his life, into all our lives. You hurt him more than you realize. Tears welled in Luna's eyes. I never wanted to hurt him. I loved him. Steffi's jaw clenched. Loved him, she echoed, almost bitterly. Love isn't what you did, Luna. Love doesn't destroy. Love doesn't take and take until there's nothing left to give. You didn't love him, you needed him. And that's not the same. Luna broke down then, sobs shaking her shoulders as she clutched the edge of the table. Every word Steffi spoke sliced through her like glass. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, but deep down she knew Steffi was right. She had been reckless. Naive. Caught in a web of passion and desperation that had spiraled beyond control. Steffi looked at her for a long time, her expression a mixture of disgust and pity. You think you're the only one who's suffered, she asked. Do you know what you put my family through? What Finn went through, watching you fall apart, trying to save you while losing himself? Do you even understand what your actions cost? Luna shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I've lost everything, Steffi. The baby, my freedom. Finn. And yet, Steffi said quietly, leaning forward again, you still haven't lost the one thing you should, your illusions. Luna's head snapped up, her eyes wide with confusion. My illusions? Steffi nodded, her voice turning icy once more. You still think you're the victim in all of this. But you're not. You're the storm that tore everything apart. That was when Steffi uttered the 5 words that would echo in Luna's heart forever, 5 words so simple, yet so devastating that Luna felt her soul collapse inside her. You were never good enough. The silence that followed was deafening. Luna froze, her body rigid, her lips trembling as those words sank in. She had heard insults before, endured judgment, even hatred, but this was different. These words came from the woman she had once admired, the woman whose acceptance she had secretly craved more than anyone's. You were never good enough. The sentence reverberated in her mind, again and again, until it became a cruel rhythm that matched the beating of her broken heart. When Luna finally woke up, the sterile scent of antiseptic filled her lungs. Her eyes fluttered open, heavy and sore, the beeping of monitors filling her ears. She felt weak, disoriented, but her first instinct was to touch her belly. The baby, she murmured. Finn was there instantly, taking her hand gently. The baby's alive, he said softly. You both made it through the night. But you need to rest, Luna. You lost a lot of blood, and the trauma, he paused, his voice catching. You scared all of us. Tears spilled from Luna's eyes as she whispered, he came out of nowhere. I didn't even see his face. She shivered, reliving the nightmare. He said I should have stayed quiet. What does that even mean? Finn's brow furrowed. Stayed quiet about what? He asked. But Luna only shook her head, confusion and fear clouding her memory. I don't know, but it felt like he knew me. Meanwhile, Detective Baker arrived to take her statement. The police had already pulled nearby security footage, showing only fragments, a dark figure in a hoodie, tall, lean, but no clear face. We'll find him, Baker promised grimly. You're not safe until we do. Finn tightened his grip on Luna's hand. She's not leaving this hospital without protection, he said firmly. Not until I know she and the baby are safe. Outside the room, Bill paced the corridor like a caged lion. Steffi approached him cautiously. Bill, I know how much Luna means to you, but you can't take this into your own hands, she warned. Let the police do their job. Bill's eyes blazed. The police? They'll take weeks. This guy could disappear by then. My family doesn't wait for justice, Steffi, we make it happen. His voice was low, dangerous, and full of promise. Later that night, as the hospital quieted, Luna lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every sound made her flinch. The thought that someone had wanted to hurt her, maybe even kill her, filled her with dread. But worse was the thought that it might not have been random. Her mind raced back over the last few months, the secrets, the scandals, the tension between the Forresters, the Spencers, and her own family. Could someone have attacked her because of the baby's paternity? Could someone be trying to silence her? Her phone, now replaced, buzzed quietly on the table. An unknown number flashed across the screen. Her pulse spiked. With trembling fingers, she opened the message. You were warned. Stay silent or next time, you won't be so lucky. Her breath caught in her throat. Finn, she whispered shakily, but before she could speak, the monitor beside her beeped an alarm. Her stress had spiked her blood pressure dangerously high. Nurses rushed in, Finn at the lead, calming her as she sobbed. He texted me, he knows where I am, she cried. Finn's eyes darkened with fury as he took the phone. Not anymore, he said, calling security. We'll trace it. He's not getting anywhere near you again. But in the corner of the hospital's surveillance room, an unseen figure watched the live feed, a shadow lurking in the digital glow. He zoomed in on Luna's room, eyes narrowing. You should have stayed quiet, he whispered to himself, the same words he'd spoken the night of the attack. His hand hovered over the phone, ready to send another message. It's not over yet. Back in her room, Luna drifted into uneasy sleep, Finn sitting vigil beside her. His mind raced with questions, who would want to silence her? Was this connected to the secrets surrounding the baby's father, the tangled history between the Forresters and the Spencers, or something darker buried in Luna's past? As dawn broke over Los Angeles, the first rays of light fell across Luna's face, fragile and peaceful despite the chaos. Finn brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, whispering, I'll protect you. No matter what. Outside the hospital, Bill's car roared to life as he made a call. Find him, he ordered his private investigator. I don't care what it takes or who's protecting him, I want a name, a face, and a location by tonight. The engine growled as he sped away into the morning fog, a storm of vengeance brewing in his chest. But somewhere in that fog, the attacker was already watching, waiting, knowing that his unfinished business with Luna Nozawa was only just beginning. And as Luna clutched her stomach in her sleep, unaware of the danger still circling her, the faintest kick from her unborn child reminded her, and everyone, that even in the heart of fear, life still fought to survive. Morning broke over Los Angeles with a deceptive calm, sunlight spilling through the city's gleaming towers as if to erase the horrors of the night before. But inside the sterile walls of University Hospital, there was no peace. The air was thick with tension, the faint hum of medical machines underscoring the storm brewing behind every closed door. Luna Nozawa lay in her hospital bed, her complexion pale, her lips trembling even in sleep. Finn sat beside her, still in his scrubs, his eyes bloodshot from exhaustion but blazing with determination. Every time he looked at her, at the bruises along her wrists, the faint swelling on her cheek, the monitor showing the fragile rhythm of two beating hearts, he felt the rage clawing deeper into him. Someone had tried to kill her. Someone had nearly taken his patient, his friend, and her unborn child. But who? He replayed her words again in his mind. He said I should have stayed quiet. That wasn't random. It wasn't the act of a mugger or an opportunistic criminal. It was a threat, personal, targeted, deliberate. And that meant one thing, whoever attacked Luna knew her, or knew something about her that no one else was supposed to. The door opened quietly. Bill Spencer stepped in, wearing his signature black shirt and a glare that could cut through steel. His usual confidence was gone, replaced with a fury that simmered just beneath the surface. Any update? He asked gruffly. Finn stood. She's stable for now. The baby's heartbeat is steady, but she's still weak. The emotional trauma's just as bad as the physical. She's terrified. Bill's jaw tightened. And the cops? What are they doing? Sitting on their hands? Finn exhaled. Detective Baker's doing what he can. But there's not much to go on, no face, no clear footage, no fingerprints. Whoever this guy is, he's smart. He planned it. Bill's voice dropped to a low growl. Then I'll plan something better. Nobody touches someone I care about and walks away breathing. Luna's tears came harder now, her sobs echoing through the room. Please, Steffy, she whispered, choking on her own grief. I never wanted to take anything from you. I never wanted to be your enemy. Steffy closed her eyes briefly, her own emotions threatening to break through. When she spoke again, her voice was steadier, but softer, like she was speaking a truth that hurt her too. I know you didn't, Luna. But that doesn't change what you did. Actions have consequences. And sometimes, love doesn't save us. It destroys us. Luna bowed her head, her long hair falling like a curtain over her tear-streaked face. I'm sorry, she whispered over and over, the words almost inaudible. I'm so sorry. For the first time, Steffy looked at her not as an adversary, but as a broken girl trapped in a cage of her own making. Maybe one day, she said quietly, you'll learn to forgive yourself. But don't expect the world to do it for you. Luna nodded, but her sobs didn't stop. Her hands shook as she reached for the glass, pressing her fingers against it as if trying to reach through, to touch Steffy, to bridge the impossible distance between them. Tell Finn, tell him I still love him. Even if he never forgives me. Steffy didn't answer right away. Her eyes softened just slightly, betraying a flicker of compassion before she stood up. Goodbye, Luna, she said simply, and turned toward the door. As the guard escorted Steffy out, Luna felt the full weight of those 5 words settle into her chest like a stone. You were never good enough. They echoed in the walls of her mind, in the quiet hum of the prison lights, in the hollow ache of her empty cell. She curled up on her cot that night and wept until her voice was gone. But as the hours passed and the moonlight filtered through the tiny barred window, something inside Luna shifted. The pain was unbearable, yes, but it was also cleansing, in a strange way. For the first time, she saw herself clearly, not as a victim, not as the girl everyone had pitied or scorned, but as a flawed, broken woman who had made terrible mistakes. Maybe Steffy was right. Maybe she had never been good enough for Finn. But maybe, just maybe, she could still learn to be good enough for herself. Weeks later, when Luna began volunteering in the prison library, helping other inmates learn to read, the guards noticed a change in her. She was quieter, calmer, but stronger. The pain hadn't vanished, it never would, but it had transformed into something else, resolve. She no longer cried when she thought of Steffy's words. Instead, she repeated them in her mind, not as condemnation, but as motivation. You were never good enough. Not yet, Luna thought. But one day, I will be. And that silent vow, whispered in the dark corners of her cell, carried on the faint hum of the prison air, marked the beginning of Luna's redemption. Steffy's visit had broken her, yes, but it had also awakened something fierce inside her. Regret became strength. Shame became clarity. For the first time since her world had fallen apart, Luna Nozawa dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, she still had a future, one that didn't depend on forgiveness, but on transformation. Even if the world never saw her as good enough, she would learn to see herself differently. And that, far more than Steffy could have known, was the power of those 5 hurtful words. Luna sat motionless long after Steffy's departure, her hands trembling on the cold steel table as the heavy door clanged shut behind her. The echo of that sound was like a punctuation mark to everything Steffy had just said. You were never good enough. The words replayed again and again in Luna's mind like a cruel song stuck on repeat. The phrase was both a blade and a mirror, it cut her deeply but also forced her to confront the reflection she had long avoided. The guards had to call her name twice before she finally stood to return to her cell. Her legs felt weak, almost as if she were wading through water. Each step down the corridor was slow and unsteady, the harsh fluorescent lights overhead flickering faintly, casting her shadow along the concrete walls. She barely heard the other inmates talking in the background, their laughter, their curses, none of it reached her. She was trapped in her own world, a world where Steffy's voice haunted her like a ghost. When she reached her cell, she sat back on the narrow cot and buried her face in her hands. She could still see the look in Steffy's eyes, calm, almost pitying, but firm and resolute. There had been no hatred in them, and that somehow made it worse. Hatred, she could have dismissed. Pity, she couldn't bear. Luna had always looked up to Steffy. When she first joined Forrester Creations, she had admired her strength, her poise, her ability to balance beauty with authority. Steffy was everything Luna had once wanted to be, confident, successful, adored by her family, respected in her career, and loved by Finn. That admiration had slowly turned into something more complicated over time. After Luna's life began spiraling, admiration became envy. Envy turned into desperation, and desperation led her down the path that ended here, in this gray box of regret. Now, sitting in silence, Luna realized that Steffy hadn't come to taunt her. She had come to deliver a kind of brutal mercy. Those 5 words were cruel, yes, but they had been Steffy's way of cutting through Luna's illusions. For the first time, Luna couldn't hide behind excuses or tears. The truth had hit her full force. She had destroyed everything she had been given. She thought about Finn. His gentle smile. The way he used to call her Lou. The warmth in his eyes when he talked about family and loyalty. He had believed in her when no one else did. He had defended her to his wife, to his friends, even to his own conscience. And what had she done? She had betrayed that faith, twisted his kindness into something selfish. She thought she was fighting for love, but in reality, she had been trying to fill the void inside herself, a void that had nothing to do with Finn and everything to do with her own fear of being unwanted. Luna curled up on her cot, hugging her knees to her chest. The prison lights dimmed for the night, and a hush fell over the cell block.